Anne of Green Gables, Chapter 1. Mrs. Lynde is surprised. Mrs. Rachel Lynde lived on the main road in Avonlea, a town on Prince Edward Island off the coast of Canada. Anybody who was coming to or leaving Avonlea had to use the main road and pass by the Lynde's house. Mrs. Lynde was always watching from her kitchen window. Mrs. Lynde sat at her window one afternoon in early June. At 3:30, Matthew Cuthbert was driving his buggy down the road. He wore his best suit.
Matthew should be planting turnip seeds now, like Mr. Lynde,
thought Mrs. Lynde.
But instead, he is in his buggy and dressed in his best suit. Where is Matthew Cuthbert going, and why?
If it was any other man in Avonlea, Mrs. Lynde might be able to guess where he was going. But Matthew Cuthbert so rarely left home that it had to be something unusual. He was the shyest man alive and hated to go anywhere he might have to talk.
I'll just go to Green Gables and ask his sister Marilla where he's gone,
she decided. After hearing,
"Come in,"
from Marilla, Mrs. Lynde stepped into the kitchen. She looked carefully at everything on the table. There were 3 plates, so Marilla must have been expecting a visitor to come home with Matthew. But the dishes were everyday dishes, and the cake was plain, so the expected visitor could not be anybody too important.
"Good evening, Rachel,"
Marilla greeted Mrs. Lynde.
"This is a lovely evening, isn't it? Won't you sit down? How are you?"
Marilla was tall and thin. Even though she looked stern, she did have a sense of humor.
"We're well,"
said Mrs. Lynde.
"Though I thought you weren't well when I saw Matthew in the buggy today."
Marilla had expected Mrs. Lynde to visit because Mrs. Lynde was a curious person.
"Matthew went to Bright River,"
Marilla said.
"We're getting a little boy from an orphanage, and he's coming on the train tonight."
If Marilla had said that Matthew had gone to meet a kangaroo from Australia, Mrs. Lynde could not be more surprised. She actually stopped talking for 5 seconds.
"Why on earth would you do that?"
she asked disapprovingly.
"We've been thinking about it for some time, all winter in fact,"
replied Marilla.
"Matthew is growing older. He's 60, and his heart is not so good. It's difficult to hire someone to do farm work."
Mrs. Lynde always said what she thought. In this case, it was,
"Well, Marilla, I think you're doing a very foolish thing. You're bringing a strange child into your house and you don't know a thing about him. Last week in the newspaper, it said that a family took an orphan boy and he set fire to the house at night, on purpose, Marilla, and nearly burnt them in their beds."
Marilla was neither offended nor alarmed. Meanwhile, Matthew Cuthbert and the horse jogged the 10 kilometers to the station. It was a pretty road, and the air was sweet with the smell of apple and plum blossoms. When Matthew arrived, there was no train, and he thought he was early. The long platform was almost deserted, except for a girl sitting at the end. Matthew walked quickly past her to the station office.
"The 5:30 train is gone, but there was a passenger for you, a little girl,"
said the station master.
"I'm not expecting a girl,"
said Matthew, surprised.
"It's a boy I've come for."
The station master raised his eyebrows.
"Well, I guess there's some mistake. Mrs. Spencer came off the train with that girl. She said you and your sister Marilla were adopting the girl from an orphanage."
The girl watched Matthew. She was 11 years old and dressed in a very old and very ugly dress. On her head was a worn-out brown hat. Under the hat were 2 braids of very thick, very red hair. Her face was small, white, and thin, and she had many freckles.
"I suppose you are Mr. Matthew Cuthbert of Green Gables?"
she said in a clear, sweet voice. She held out her hand.
"I'm very glad to see you. I was afraid you weren't coming for me. I had decided if you didn't come for me, I'd climb up that big wild cherry tree. It would be lovely to sleep in a wild cherry tree under the moon, don't you think?"
Matthew shook the little hand awkwardly and wondered what to say. Matthew could not say there was a mistake. He would take her home and let Marilla explain everything.
"I'm sorry I was late,"
he said shyly.
Come along. The horse is over in the yard.
Oh, I'm very glad you came.
The girl said.
Even if it would be nice to sleep in a cherry tree, it's wonderful I'm going to live with you and belong to you. I've never belonged to anybody. Not really.
The girl kept talking as they drove down the main road.
Isn't it beautiful?
She said.
I've always heard that Prince Edward Island is the prettiest place in the world. I used to imagine living here, but I never expected I actually would. Am I talking too much?
She went on.
People always tell me I do. If you say so, I'll stop. I can stop, though it is difficult.
Surprisingly, Matthew was enjoying himself. He'd never expected to enjoy the company of a young girl. He said shyly,
Oh, you can talk as much as you like. I don't mind.
I'm so glad. You and I will get along just fine. I feel nearly perfectly happy. I can't feel perfectly happy because, well, what color is this?
The girl held up one of her braids.
It's red, isn't it?
He said.
Yes, it's red.
She said, sighing.
Now you see why I can't be perfectly happy. Nobody with red hair can be perfectly happy.
We're near home now.
Matthew said uneasily. As they approached Green Gables, he did not think about Marilla or himself or the mistake. He thought only about the child's disappointment when she discovered the truth. Marilla opened the door. She saw the odd girl in the ugly dress with long red braids and big eyes.
Matthew Cuthbert, who's that?
She said.
Where's the boy?
There wasn't any boy.
Said Matthew slowly.
There was only her.
He nodded at the child. He realized he didn't even know her name.
No boy? But there must be a boy.
Insisted Marilla.
We asked Mrs. Spencer for a boy.
Well, I asked the station master, and Mrs. Spencer didn't bring a boy.
Said Matthew.
I had to bring the girl home.
Well, what do we do now?
Asked Marilla. During this conversation, the child was silent. Suddenly, she understood what was happening.
You don't want me.
She cried.
You don't want me because I'm not a boy. I should have known. Nobody ever did want me.
She burst into tears. Neither Marilla nor Matthew knew what to do. Finally, Marilla said,
Well, there's no need to cry. You can stay here until we find out what happened. What's your name?
The child stopped crying and asked eagerly,
Will you please call me Cordelia?
Call you Cordelia? Is that your name?
Asked Marilla.
No, it's not exactly my name, but I would love to be called Cordelia. It's a beautiful name.
I don't know what you mean. If Cordelia isn't your name, what is?
Marilla asked.
Anne Shirley.
The girl answered.
But Anne is such an unromantic name.
Anne is a good, plain, sensible name,
Said Marilla.
It's all right, but I like Cordelia better. If you must call me Anne, please call me Anne spelled with an E.
Anne said.
What does it matter how it's spelled?
Asked Marilla, trying to stop a smile.
Oh, it looks so much nicer. A-N-N looks horrible, but A-N-N-E looks more distinguished.
Did Mrs. Spencer bring any other orphans besides you?
Marilla inquired.
She brought Lily Jones for herself.
Anne answered.
Lily is only 5 years old, and she is very beautiful. She has nut brown hair. If I were very beautiful and had nut brown hair, would you keep me?
No, we want a boy to help Matthew on the farm. A girl is no use. Now, take off your hat and let's eat dinner.
Anne took off her hat and they sat down to eat. But Anne could not eat. She nibbled at the bread and butter and nibbled at the apple pie. When dinner was finished, Marilla showed Anne to a spare bedroom. Anne got into bed and put her head right under the covers.
Good night.
Marilla said a little awkwardly, but kindly. Suddenly, Anne's head reappeared.
How can you say it's a good night when you know it's the worst night I've ever had?
She cried. She disappeared under the covers again. Marilla went into the kitchen and started to wash the dishes. Matthew sat on a chair, saying nothing.
One of us will have to take the girl back tomorrow,
Said Marilla.
I suppose so.
Said Matthew reluctantly.
You suppose so?
Marilla echoed.
Don't you know so?
Well, now she's a real nice little thing, Marilla. It's a pity to send her back. She likes it so much here.
Said Matthew.
Matthew Cuthbert, do you really think we should keep her?
Said Marilla, astonished.
Well, no, not exactly.
Stammered Matthew.
Of course we cannot keep her.
Said Marilla.
What good would she be to us?
We might be some good to her.
Said Matthew unexpectedly.
Matthew Cuthbert, I can see that you want to keep her. That girl has bewitched you.
Well, now, she's a real interesting little thing.
Said Matthew.
You should have heard her talk, coming from the station.
Oh, she can talk all right. I don't like children that talk so much. I don't want an orphan girl, and if I did, it wouldn't be her.
The next morning, Anne awoke and sat up in bed. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was. First, she had a delightful thrill, and then a horrible memory. This was Green Gables, and they didn't want her because she wasn't a boy. She got dressed and went downstairs for breakfast.
I'm pretty hungry this morning.
She announced.
I'm glad it's such a sunny morning, but I like rainy mornings as well. All sorts of mornings are interesting, don't you think? You don't know what's going to happen throughout the day. Anything could happen.
For goodness sake, be quiet.
Said Marilla. Anne obeyed and was so silent that it made Marilla nervous. Matthew was also quiet, but this was natural, so the meal was a very silent one. After breakfast, Anne washed the dishes, and then Marilla told her to go and play outside. Anne ran to the door, excited. Then she stopped suddenly, came back, and sat at the table.
What's the matter now?
Said Marilla.
I can't go out.
Said Anne.
It's no use loving Green Gables. If I go out and meet all those trees and flowers, it'll just be harder to leave.
Marilla thought.
In all my life, I never saw or heard anything like it. She is kind of interesting, as Matthew says. I am already wondering what she'll say next.
But when evening came, Marilla and Anne got in the buggy and left Green Gables. They were on their way to Mrs. Spencer's house.
I decided to enjoy this drive.
Anne said to Marilla on the way to Mrs. Spencer's house.
I've learned you can nearly always enjoy something if you try hard. I'm not going to think about going back to the orphanage. I'm just going to think about the drive. Oh, look, there's a wild rose.
She went on.
Isn't it lovely? Wouldn't it be nice if roses could talk? And isn't pink the most bewitching color in the world? I love it, but I can't wear it. Red-headed people can't wear pink. Do you know anybody whose hair color changed when they grew up?
No,
Said Marilla wearily.
and I don't think your hair color will change either.
Well, that's another hope gone. My life is a graveyard of buried hopes. That's a sentence I read in a book once. I say it to comfort myself when I'm disappointed.
How does it comfort you?
Asked Marilla, surprised.
Why, because it sounds so nice and romantic, as if I were a heroine in a book.
If you're going to keep talking, you should tell me something about yourself.
Said Marilla.
Can I make it up?
Anne asked.
It'll be much more interesting.
No, I don't want any stories. Just stick to the facts. Where were you born? And how old are you?
Asked Marilla sternly.
I was 11 last March,
Said Anne.
and I was born in Nova Scotia. My father and mother were both high school teachers. They were very poor and lived in a tiny yellow house. I was born in that house. Mrs. Thomas said I was an ugly baby, scrawny and thin, but that my mother thought I was perfectly beautiful. She died of fever when I was only 3 months old, and soon after, my father died from fever too. So I was an orphan and nobody knew what to do with me. Father and mother had both come from places far away and had no relatives around. Finally, Mrs. Thomas took me in, even though she was poor and her husband was a drunk. I lived with them until I was 8 years old. I helped look after the children, and it was hard work. Then Mr. Thomas was killed when he fell under a train. After that, I lived with the Hammonds, who had 8 children. She had twins 3 times. I like babies, but twins 3 times is too much. I got so tired carrying them around. I lived with the Hammonds for 2 years, and then Mr. Hammond died. I had to go to the orphanage because the Hammonds didn't want me any longer either. It was too crowded in their house.
Did you ever go to school?
Marilla asked.
A little bit.
Answered Anne.
I can read well, and I know lots of poetry. Don't you just love poetry?
Were those women, Mrs. Thomas and Mrs. Hammond, good to you?
Asked Marilla, looking at Anne carefully. Stammered Anne, blushing with embarrassment.
They tried to be good to me. I'm sure they meant to be good.
Marilla asked no more questions. She suddenly felt pity for Anne, who hadn't had much love in her short life. Soon they arrived at Mrs. Spencer's house.
Well,
Mrs. Spencer exclaimed.
you're the last folks I expected. How are you, Anne?
All right.
Said Anne without smiling.
Mrs. Spencer,
Began Marilla.
I'm sorry, but there's been a mistake. We told the orphanage we wanted a boy.
Oh,
Mrs. Spencer said.
that's too bad. I'm very sorry.
I'm sorry, too.
Said Marilla.
Can we send the child back? The orphanage will take her, won't they?
I suppose so.
Said Mrs. Spencer thoughtfully.
But wait a minute. Mrs. Blewett was here yesterday. She told me she would like a little girl.
Marilla was not very pleased to hear this. Mrs. Blewett had a terrible temper and did not treat servant girls well.
Look, there's Mrs. Blewett now.
Said Mrs. Spencer. A thin-faced, frowning woman came over to the house.
How lucky. She can take Anne now.
Mrs. Spencer explained the mistake to Mrs. Blewett. Mrs. Blewett looked Anne over from head to toe.
How old are you and what's your name?
She demanded.
My name is Anne Shirley, and I'm 11 years old.
Anne replied.
You're too thin, but you're wiry.
Snapped Mrs. Blewett.
The wiry ones are the best. You'll be a good girl and work hard. All right, Miss Cuthbert,
She said to Marilla.
I'll take her home now.
I don't know.
Marilla said slowly.
Matthew and I haven't decided what to do yet. If we decide not to keep Anne, I'll send her over tomorrow.
All right.
Said Mrs. Blewett ungraciously. At Marilla's words, Anne's eyes grew bright like stars.
Can I really stay at Green Gables?
She whispered to Marilla.
We'll decide tonight.
Said Marilla crossly.
But you heard me. You might go to Mrs. Blewett. She needs you more than Matthew and I do.
Oh, send me to the orphanage instead. Mrs. Blewett looks like a monster.
Said Anne.
Anne Shirley, don't talk like that.
Marilla scolded.
Go and sit quietly and be a good girl.
I'll be anything you want if you will keep me.
Pleaded Anne. Later, Marilla told Matthew about Anne's history and the trip to Mrs. Spencer's house.
I wouldn't give a dog to Mrs. Blewett.
Said Matthew.
I don't like Mrs. Blewett's style either.
Admitted Marilla.
Since you want to keep the girl, I suppose she can stay. I've never brought up a child, especially a girl. I'll probably make a mess of it, but I'll do my best.
Matthew's shy face glowed with delight.
Marilla, I hoped you would change your mind. She's such an interesting little thing.
Yes, well, don't interfere, Matthew.
Marilla said.
I won't tell Anne tonight because she'll be so excited she won't sleep. An old maid might not know much about raising children, but neither does an old bachelor. Goodness knows what will come of it.
Marilla had decided to keep Anne, but she didn't want to tell Anne until the next day. She took Anne upstairs and said,
Now, Anne, I noticed you threw all your clothes on the floor. That's a bad habit. Please fold your clothes and put them on the chair.
I was so upset last night I forgot.
said Anne.
I'll fold them nicely tonight.
Say your prayers and get into bed.
I never say any prayers.
Announced Anne. Marilla was horrified.
What do you mean? Were you never taught to say prayers?
Well, Mrs. Thomas told me that God made my hair red on purpose, so I don't really care for God. Anyway, I'm always too tired to say prayers.
Well, you must say your prayers here.
Marilla insisted.
Of course I will.
Said Anne cheerfully.
I'm ready. What do I say?
Just thank God and ask for some things you want.
Marilla told Anne.
I'll do my best.
Promised Anne.
Dear God, thank you for the wild cherry tree and the lake, which I call the Lake of Shining Waters. I want so many things that it'll take a long time to say everything. So the most important things are these. Please let me stay at Green Gables, and please make me pretty when I grow up.
Marilla waited until the next afternoon to tell Anne she could stay. During the morning, Marilla asked Anne to do various tasks, and she watched Anne with a keen eye. By noon, Marilla saw that Anne was a hard worker, quick to learn, clever, and obedient. Her most serious shortcoming was a tendency to start daydreaming in the middle of a task and forget everything until Marilla reprimanded her. When Anne finished washing dishes, she suddenly grabbed Marilla.
Oh, please, Miss Cuthbert, can you tell me if I can stay or not? I've tried to be patient all morning. Please tell me.
You haven't rinsed the dishcloth in boiling water, Anne.
Said Marilla.
Do that first.
Anne attended to the dishcloth and then looked at Marilla again.
Well,
Said Marilla.
Matthew and I decided to keep you, if you are a good girl. Anne, what's the matter?
I'm crying,
Said Anne.
but I don't know why. I'm so happy. Oh, happy isn't the right word. I was happy to see the trees and flowers, but this, I'll try to be so good. Mrs. Thomas said I am wicked, so it will be difficult, but I'll try. But why am I crying, Marilla?
I suppose because you're excited and worked up.
Said Marilla disapprovingly.
Sit down on that chair. Try to calm down. You laugh and cry far too easily. Now, you must go to school when it starts in September. Until then, you can help me here.
What will I call you? Miss Cuthbert? Aunt Marilla?
No, just Marilla. I'm not used to Miss Cuthbert. Just plain Marilla is fine.
It sounds awfully disrespectful to say just Marilla.
Protested Anne.
Everybody else does. Make sure you speak politely and it will be fine.
Marilla replied.
I'd love to call you Aunt Marilla.
Said Anne.
I've never had an aunt or any relation at all, not even a grandmother. Please?
No, you can't. I don't believe in calling people names that don't belong to them.
But we could imagine you're my aunt.
I couldn't.
Said Marilla grimly.
Do you ever imagine things different from what they really are, Marilla?
Asked Anne wide-eyed.
No.
Said Marilla.
Oh.
Anne drew a long breath. Then she spoke.
Oh, Marilla, how much you miss.
Later, Anne asked,
Marilla, do you think I will ever have a kindred spirit in Avonlea?
A what?
Asked Marilla.
A kindred spirit. A best friend in whom I can confide my innermost soul. I've dreamed of meeting her all my life. I never really supposed I would, but so many of my dreams have come true all at once that perhaps this one will too. Do you think it's possible?
Diana Barry lives nearby, and she's about your age.
Marilla replied.
She's a very nice girl, and perhaps she can be your playmate when she comes home. She's visiting her aunt now. You'll have to be careful how you behave, though. Mrs. Barry is very particular. She won't let Diana play with any girl who isn't nice and good.
What is Diana like?
Anne asked.
Her hair isn't red, is it? Oh, I hope not. It's bad enough to have red hair myself, but I positively couldn't endure it in a best friend, too.
Diana is a very pretty girl,
said Marilla.
She has black eyes and hair and rosy cheeks. And she is good and smart, which is better than being pretty.
I'm so glad she's pretty,
Anne said.
I'm not beautiful, so having a beautiful friend would be wonderful. When I lived with Mrs. Thomas, there was a bookcase with glass doors. One of the doors was broken because Mr. Thomas smashed it when he was drunk. The other glass door was whole. I used to pretend that my reflection was another little girl who lived in the glass. Her name was Katie, and we were very close. I told her everything. Katie was my only friend. We pretended that the bookcase was enchanted. I knew the spell that took me to Katie's world. In Katie's world, there were flowers and fairies and sunshine, and we would live there happily ever after. When I went to live with Miss Hammond, I was so upset to leave Katie. She was sad too.
Marilla listened and then gave Anne a strange look.
I don't approve of such things, Anne. You seem to half believe your own imagination. Don't let Mrs. Barry hear you talking about your friend Katie. She'll think you're strange.
Oh, I won't,
said Anne.
I won't tell anybody, but I thought you'd like to know.
Well,
Marilla said, smiling.
You'll have a real friend soon, Anne.
Look, there's a big bee in that apple blossom,
said Anne.
If I wasn't human, I think I'd like to be a bee and live in the flowers.
Yesterday you wanted to be a bird,
said Marilla.
You are very fickle. Now, just be quiet for a minute. It seems impossible for you to stop talking if you've got anybody who will listen to you.
2 weeks had passed since Anne arrived at Green Gables. She had been very busy acquainting herself with every tree, shrub, and plant. After her discoveries, Anne would run home and tell Matthew and Marilla. Matthew listened to it all with a smile of enjoyment on his face. Marilla listened until she found herself becoming too interested in Anne's adventures, and then she told Anne to be quiet. Anne was in the orchard one day when the busybody Mrs. Lynde arrived to inspect her. Mrs. Lynde said to Marilla, "I've heard all about your orphan. It's too bad there was a mistake. Can't you send her back?"
We could, but we decided not to. Matthew liked her, and I must say, I like her too, though she's not perfect. The house is a different place already. She's a bright little thing.
You have no experience with children, Marilla,
Mrs. Lynde said.
and you can't guess how she'll be. I just hope the situation will be all right.
I'm not discouraged,
was Marilla's dry response.
I suppose you'd like to see Anne. I'll call her.
Anne ran in with her face flushed from her adventures in the orchard. But the presence of a stranger was unexpected, and Anne was suddenly shy. She stood near the door. Anne certainly was an odd-looking girl. She wore the old, ill-fitting dress from the orphanage, and her hair was messy from running around.
They didn't choose you for your looks, that's for sure,
began Mrs. Lynde.
She's very skinny and plain, Marilla. Come here, child, and let me look at you. How many freckles does she have? And hair as red as carrots. Come closer, child.
Anne came closer, but not exactly in the manner that Mrs. Lynde expected. With one jump, Anne stood in front of Mrs. Lynde. Anne's face was red with anger, and she trembled from head to toe.
I hate you,
she said angrily, stamping her foot on the floor.
I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
She stamped louder each time she spoke.
How dare you call me ugly and skinny? How dare you say I have freckles and red hair? You are a rude, unfeeling woman.
Anne!
Marilla gasped. But Anne was not daunted and continued to face Mrs. Lynde with her head up and her eyes furious.
How dare you say such things about me?
She cried in a choked voice.
How would you like to be told you are fat and clumsy and probably don't have any imagination? I hope I hurt your feelings. I will never forgive you. Never, never.
Stamp, stamp,
Did you ever see such a terrible temper?
exclaimed the horrified Mrs. Lynde.
Anne, go to your room and stay there until I come up.
Marilla said, recovering her powers of speech with some difficulty. Anne burst into tears, ran through the hall, up the stairs, and slammed the bedroom door.
Well, good luck with her,
Said Mrs. Lynde.
You shouldn't have said those things about her, Rachel.
Marilla said.
What?
Said Mrs. Lynde.
Whose side are you on, Marilla?
I'm not trying to excuse her.
Said Marilla slowly.
She was very naughty, but nobody has taught Anne what is right. And you did say too much, Rachel.
I will be very careful when I visit again, Marilla. An orphan is more important than I am, that's clear,
Said Mrs. Lynde, and walked out the door in a huff. Marilla went upstairs where she found Anne face down on the bed crying.
Anne!
Said Marilla. There was no answer. Anne! Marilla said louder.
Get off the bed and listen now.
Anne sat up and looked at the floor.
Mrs. Lynde will certainly have a nice story about you to tell everyone.
Marilla went on.
You must go and say sorry to Mrs. Lynde. You must ask her to forgive you.
I can never say sorry.
Said Anne.
You can punish me, Marilla. You can put me in a deep, dark dungeon with snakes and feed me bread and water. I will not say sorry.
There aren't any dungeons in Avonlea, but you will stay in your room until you say sorry to Mrs. Lynde.
Then I will stay here forever.
Anne replied.
I am not sorry. I am happy I said those things.
At that, Marilla left the room. Downstairs, Marilla told Matthew the story, impressing upon him the seriousness of Anne's misbehavior.
Mrs. Lynde is an old gossip.
Matthew retorted.
Matthew, I'm astonished. Don't you think Anne should be punished?
Marilla asked.
Yes, of course,
Matthew answered.
but not too much. You will give her something to eat while she stays in her room.
When do I starve people, Matthew?
Said Marilla angrily.
Matthew was no help.
She thought. Marilla brought breakfast, lunch, and dinner to Anne's bedroom. Anne still did not want to say sorry. Matthew crept upstairs and went to her room.
Anne,
He whispered.
how are you?
I'm all right. It is lonely, though.
Anne smiled sadly, thinking of the many years she would stay in the room.
And how about you say sorry soon?
Matthew whispered again.
Well, I am sorry now.
Anne admitted.
But I can't tell Mrs. Lynde. It would be so humiliating. But I will do anything for you if you really want me to.
Of course I want you to say sorry. It's too quiet without you, Anne. Just go and say sorry. There's a good girl.
Very well.
Said Anne.
But don't tell Marilla I asked you.
I won't.
Said Anne. Matthew left, surprised by his success. Then Anne leaned over the stair banisters.
Marilla, I'm ready to say sorry.
Anne and Marilla went to Mrs. Lynde's house. As they walked, Anne did not look sorry. In fact, she looked very happy.
What are you thinking, Anne?
Marilla asked.
I'm thinking of what to say to Mrs. Lynde.
Anne said. Marilla was suspicious, but said nothing. As usual, Mrs. Lynde sat at the kitchen window watching everything that went on outside the house. Anne suddenly kneeled in front of the surprised Mrs. Lynde and spoke.
Oh, Mrs. Lynde, I am so sorry. There are not enough words in the dictionary to say how sorry I am. What you said was true. My hair is red, and I'm freckled and skinny and ugly. What I said was true too, but I shouldn't have said it. Please, please, please forgive me?
There was no doubt Anne was sincere. But unlike Marilla, Mrs. Lynde did not realize that Anne was also having fun. It was very dramatic, and Anne loved drama. Mrs. Lynde just said,
Get up, child. Of course I forgive you. Your hair is a terrible color, but maybe it will change when you grow up.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. Lynde.
Anne said.
You give me hope.
With that, Mrs. Lynde was satisfied.
Anne, I'm going to the Barrys today. You can come with me and meet Diana.
Anne looked up at Marilla.
I'm nervous. What if Diana doesn't like me?
Diana will like you.
Marilla said firmly.
But if Mrs. Barry doesn't like you, it won't matter how much Diana likes you.
Anne and Marilla went to the Barrys' house.
Come in.
Mrs. Barry said cordially.
Is this the girl you've adopted?
Yes, this is Anne,
Said Marilla.
Spelled with an E.
Anne whispered. When Diana came in, Anne saw she was a pretty girl with a happy face.
Diana, take Anne to the garden and show her your flowers,
Said Mrs. Barry. Outside, Anne and Diana sat among the roses, daffodils, daisies, and violets.
Oh, Diana,
Anne blurted out.
can I be your best friend?
Diana laughed.
I guess so.
She said.
I'm glad you're living at Green Gables. There's no other girl who lives close, and my sisters are too little to play with.
Will you be my friend forever and ever? We must hold hands, like this.
Anne said eagerly. Diana looked surprised, but said,
All right.
I'll say the oath first.
Anne said.
I promise to always love my dear best friend, Diana Barry, as long as the sun and moon are in the sky.
Diana repeated the oath with a laugh.
You're a strange girl, Anne, but I think I'm going to like you very much.
The next day, Anne hurried into the house.
Oh, Marilla,
She cried.
there's going to be a Sunday school picnic next Wednesday, right near the Lake of Shining Waters. And Mrs. Lynde is going to make ice cream. Think of it, ice cream. Can I go?
Yes, of course.
Marilla answered.
But
Anne stammered.
Diana says that everyone must take a basket of things to eat. I can't cook, and...
I'll bake something for you to bring.
Said Marilla.
Oh, you're so kind to me.
Anne exclaimed, kissing Marilla's cheeks. It was the first time in Marilla's life that a child had kissed her. She was secretly very pleased at Anne's impulsive show of affection, but she said gruffly,
All right, stop your kissing nonsense.
It was Sunday, 3 days before the picnic, and Marilla wore her amethyst brooch to church as usual. The brooch was Marilla's most treasured possession. When Anne had first seen the brooch, she'd thought it was very beautiful too.
Can I hold the brooch for a minute?
She had asked.
I think amethysts are sweet, like violets.
On Tuesday evening, Marilla was frowning.
Have you seen my amethyst brooch?
She asked Anne.
I can't find it anywhere.
I saw it this afternoon when you went out.
Said Anne a little slowly.
I was passing by and I saw it, so I went to look at it.
Did you touch it?
Said Marilla sternly.
Yes,
Anne admitted hesitantly.
I pinned it on, just to see how it would look.
That was wrong, Anne. Where did you put it?
I put it near the mirror. I'm sure I put it back.
Anne said.
Well, now it's gone.
Said Marilla. She looked again, but she didn't see it anywhere.
Anne, you were the last person to touch it. Did you take the brooch and lose it?
No,
Said Anne.
I never took your brooch out of the room. That's the truth.
Marilla got angry.
I think you are lying, Anne.
She said.
Go to your room and stay there until you are ready to confess.
But the picnic is tomorrow, Marilla!
Anne exclaimed.
I'll stay in my room after the picnic, but I must go to the picnic.
You aren't going anywhere until you confess.
Marilla said firmly.
Oh, Marilla!
Gasped Anne, but Marilla had left. Marilla was worried. She was worried about her valuable brooch. She was worried that Anne told lies. Marilla searched the room again but found nothing. Anne steadfastly refused to confess. Wednesday was sunny, a perfect day for a picnic. When Marilla took Anne her breakfast, she found Anne sitting on her bed.
I'm ready to confess,
Anne said.
Ah,
Marilla said. Her punishment had worked, but the success was bitter.
I took the amethyst brooch.
Anne began.
It was so beautiful. I put it on my dress and pretended I was a beautiful lady who lives in a castle. I went to the lake of shining waters and the brooch fell off into the water and sank. That's my best confession.
Marilla became very angry. Anne had lost her precious brooch and did not seem sorry at all.
Anne, you are a very wicked girl,
Marilla said.
Yes, I suppose I am.
Agreed Anne.
You have to punish me. Can you punish me quickly so I can go to the picnic?
Marilla snorted.
Picnic? You're not going to the picnic. That is your punishment.
Anne jumped to her feet.
But you promised me! Oh, Marilla, I must go to the picnic. That's why I confessed. Please let me go. There will be ice cream.
You're not going to the picnic, and that's final,
Marilla said. Anne cried out loudly and flung herself on the bed, crying and crying.
I believe the child is crazy,
Marilla said as she left the room. Later, Marilla decided to mend a black scarf. The scarf was in a box near the window. As Marilla held it up, something sparkled in the sunlight. Marilla gasped. It was the amethyst brooch hanging off the end of the scarf.
I picked up this scarf on Monday,
Marilla thought.
The brooch must have caught onto it.
Marilla rushed to Anne's room.
I've just found my brooch. What story did you tell me this morning?
Anne replied,
You said I must stay in my room until I confessed. So I confessed because I wanted to go to the picnic. I thought of a good story, but I can't go to the picnic anyway.
Marilla had to laugh.
Anne, you are a surprise. It was wrong for you to lie, but I understand why, and I should have believed you in the first place. So, if you forgive me, I forgive you. Now, get ready for the picnic.
But isn't it too late?
No, it's only 2 o'clock. Wash your face and comb your hair, and I'll get some food ready.
Oh, Marilla, 5 minutes ago I wished I was never born. Now I wouldn't change places with an angel.
That night, Anne returned to Green Gables happy and tired.
It was wonderful. We rowed a boat, and Jane Andrews nearly fell in the lake and drowned. I wish it was me. How romantic to nearly drown.
After Anne went to bed, Marilla smiled and thought,
It's never boring with Anne around.
In September, when Anne started school, Marilla was worried. Anne was a strange girl. How would she make friends? How would she stay quiet in the classroom? But after her first day, Anne came home excited and happy.
I like school,
Anne declared.
I don't like the teacher, Mr. Phillips, though. He said my spelling was terrible and held it up for everybody to see.
Anne, don't say that about your teacher. I hope you were a good girl,
said Marilla.
I was,
answered Anne.
I sit with Diana near the window, and we can see the lake of shining waters. I am in a lower class than Diana, though. She is on the 5th book, and I am on the 4th book. There are many nice girls in school, and we had fun playing at lunchtime. And Jane Andrews told Ruby Gillis she heard Minnie McPherson say that I had a pretty nose. That is the first compliment I have ever had in my life, Marilla. Do I have a pretty nose? I know you'll tell me the truth.
Your nose is all right.
Marilla said. Secretly, she thought that Anne's nose was remarkably pretty, but Marilla had no intention of telling her so. 3 weeks passed, and Anne and Diana were walking to school one morning.
Gilbert Blythe will be in school today,
Said Diana.
He's been away at his cousin's. He's so handsome, Anne, and he teases the girls terribly.
From Diana's voice, it was clear that Diana liked being teased by Gilbert Blythe.
Gilbert's in your class.
Diana went on.
He's on the 4th book because he missed school when his father was sick. He's usually at the top of the class, though. You're at the top of the class now, Anne.
I'm glad Gilbert is coming back.
Said Anne.
I don't feel proud about being at the top of a class with little boys and girls who are only 9 years old.
The girls went into the classroom.
That's Gilbert Blythe sitting across from you, Anne.
Said Diana.
Isn't he handsome?
Anne looked. She had lots of time to look because Gilbert was busy tying Ruby Gillis's long golden braid to her chair. Gilbert was a tall boy with curly brown hair and a cheeky smile. When Ruby Gillis tried to stand up, she fell back screaming, thinking that her hair was being pulled out. Everybody stared at her, and she started to cry. Gilbert read his book and looked very serious. But when everyone was quiet again, he looked at Anne and winked at her.
I think your Gilbert Blythe is handsome,
Whispered Anne to Diana.
but he's very bold. It isn't polite to wink at a girl he doesn't know.
In the afternoon, Gilbert tried to get Anne's attention again. Mr. Phillips, the teacher, was in the back of the room explaining math to an older girl. The other students were drawing pictures on their slates, eating apples, whispering, or playing with some crickets. Gilbert Blythe tried to make Anne look at him without success. Anne stared out the window at the lake of shining waters, lost in her own world. Usually, girls did look at Gilbert. He thought.
That red-headed Shirley girl should look at me.
He reached across the aisle and grabbed the end of Anne's long red braid. He held it out and said in a loud whisper,
Carrots, carrots.
This time Anne did look at him, and she did more than look. She jumped up and stared fiercely at Gilbert.
You mean, hateful boy!
She shouted.
How dare you!
And then, whack! Anne cracked her slate on Gilbert's head. The students at Avonlea School always enjoyed a scene, and this was an especially good one. Diana gasped. Ruby Gillis began to cry again. Mr. Phillips stalked to the front of the classroom.
Anne Shirley, what happened just now?
He said angrily. Anne did not answer. It was too embarrassing to tell everybody that Gilbert had called her carrots. Gilbert spoke.
It was my fault. I teased her.
He admitted. Mr. Phillips ignored Gilbert.
Anne, stand in front of the board for the rest of the afternoon.
He told her. With a pale, stony face, Anne obeyed. Mr. Phillips wrote on the board above her head, Anne Shirley has a very bad temper. Anne Shirley must control her temper. Then the teacher read the words aloud so that everybody, even the youngest children who could not read, understood. Anne stood there all afternoon. She didn't cry because she was still angry. Anne thought,
I'll never speak to Gilbert Blythe again.
When school finally ended, Anne marched out and waited for Diana on the porch. Gilbert approached her.
Sorry I teased you, Anne.
He whispered.
I'm really sorry.
Anne ignored him. Gilbert put a candy that said, "You are sweet," on the ledge near Anne. Anne picked it up carefully, dropped it on the floor, and ground it into a fine powder under her shoe. Then she started walking.
Oh, Anne,
Said Diana.
how could you ignore his apology?
I will never forgive Gilbert Blythe.
Anne retorted furiously.
And Mr. Phillips spelled my name without an E.
Gilbert teases all the girls, Anne,
Diana said.
He laughs at my hair because it's so black and calls me Crow. He's never said sorry to any girl before today.
There's a big difference between Crow and Carrots, Diana,
Anne said with a sniff. The next day at school, Mr. Phillips' mood had not improved. He spotted Anne talking to Charlie Sloane.
And surely, since you like boys so much, you will sit with Gilbert Blythe,
said Mr. Phillips. The other boys laughed. Anne did not move.
Anne, obey me at once,
the teacher said. For a moment, it seemed Anne would never move. But at last, she got up, sat down beside Gilbert, and buried her face in her arms on the desk. To sit next to a boy was bad enough, but to sit next to Gilbert Blythe was unbearable. When school ended, Anne picked up everything from her desk, all her books, her pen and ink, and piled them onto her cracked slate.
Why are you taking everything home, Anne?
Diana asked.
I'm not coming to school anymore,
said Anne. When Anne got home, she told Marilla she had finished school forever.
Nonsense,
said Marilla.
Marilla, I've been insulted.
You'll go tomorrow,
was Marilla's answer.
Oh no,
said Anne.
I'm not going back. I'll study at home.
Marilla knew Anne was stubborn, and so she let Anne study at home, for the time being. She hoped that Anne would miss her schoolmates and return to school soon.
But it is Anne,
Marilla acknowledged with a sigh.
So anything could happen.
One beautiful October morning, Marilla and Anne sat in the kitchen and cut vegetables.
Anne,
Marilla began,
why don't you ask Diana to come over for afternoon tea? I am going into town, and she can come then.
Oh, Marilla!
Anne clasped her hands.
How perfectly lovely! We will be like grown-ups. Can we use the teapot with the roses?
No, but I have some cake and raspberry cordial in the pantry you can have,
Marilla replied. Diana came over, dressed in her second-best dress. Anne, dressed in her own second-best dress, opened the door with a very serious expression. Together, they went to the front room.
How is your mother?
Anne asked politely, like an adult.
She is very well, thank you. And Mr. Cuthbert is in the potato fields?
Asked Diana.
Yes, he is. Our potatoes are very good this year,
replied Anne. Abruptly, her tone changed.
Oh, Diana!
She burst out.
Let's go and pick some apples.
The girls instantly stopped acting like proper ladies and ran outside to the apple orchard.
Marilla said we can pick the rest of the apples,
said Anne.
Marilla is very kind. She also said we can have cake and raspberry cordial for tea. I love red drinks. They just taste better, don't they?
Later, the girls went inside, and Anne went to the pantry to get the raspberry cordial. At first, she couldn't see it anywhere, but then she spotted it at the back. Anne put the cordial on the table with a big glass.
Please help yourself, Diana. I can't drink a thing after eating all those apples.
Diana poured herself some of the drink and sipped it.
This is a very nice cordial, Anne,
she said.
I didn't know cordial tasted so good.
I'm glad you like it,
Anne replied.
Take as much as you want. I'll get the cake.
When Anne came back, Diana was drinking a second glass of cordial. Diana started to drink a third glass, and Anne didn't mind.
It's the nicest cordial I ever drank,
said Diana.
It's much nicer than Mrs. Lynde's cordial. It doesn't taste a bit like hers.
I'm sure Marilla's cordial is nicer than Mrs. Lynde's,
said Anne loyally.
Marilla is a famous cook. She's trying to teach me, but it's hard work, Diana. Last week,
Anne continued,
Marilla told me to put some pudding sauce in the pantry and cover it. I took the bowl of sauce into the pantry, but I forgot to cover it. I remembered the next morning and ran to the pantry. Diana, A mouse had drowned in the sauce. I used a spoon to get the mouse and took it outside. Then I was going to tell Marilla about the mouse, but I started pretending I was a forest fairy flying through the trees, and I forgot about the mouse and the sauce. After that, Mr. and Mrs. Ross came for lunch. We ate lunch, and everything was fine until I saw Marilla coming in with plum pudding and pudding sauce warmed up. I remembered everything and shouted, "Marilla, don't use the sauce! A mouse drowned in it!" Mr. and Mrs. Ross looked at me, and I thought I would die. "Why, Diana,"
Anne said suddenly.
"what's the matter?"
Diana stood up and then sat down, putting her hands to her head.
I'm very sick,
She said,
I must go home.
"No, don't go yet. You must eat some cake first."
I must go home.
Diana repeated.
"Where do you feel bad?"
Anne asked.
I'm very dizzy.
Said Diana. Anne was very disappointed, but she took Diana to the Barrys' fence. The next day, Marilla sent Anne to Mrs. Lynde's house on an errand. In a short space of time, Anne came flying back to Green Gables in tears.
What's the matter, Anne?
Marilla said.
"Mrs. Lynde saw Diana's mother today. Mrs. Barry said that I sent Diana home drunk. And she said I was a very wicked girl, and she's never going to let Diana play with me again."
Diana was drunk?
Marilla was stunned.
Anne, are you or Mrs. Barry crazy? What did you give her?
"Nothing but raspberry cordial."
Anne said.
"I never thought it made you drunk, not even if you drink 3 glasses like Diana did."
Marilla marched to the pantry. On the shelf was a bottle of homemade wine. At that moment, Marilla remembered that the cordial was in the cellar and not the pantry as she had told Anne. Marilla went back into the kitchen.
Anne, you gave Diana wine instead of cordial. Don't you know the difference between them?
"I didn't taste the drink.
Said Anne.
Only Diana drank it. And then Diana got so sick and went home. Mrs. Barry said Diana just laughed and then slept for hours and had a headache all day. Her mother smelled her breath and knew she was drunk."
3 glasses of cordial would make you sick.
Marilla said, troubled.
But it was an accident, Anne, so don't worry. I'll talk to Mrs. Barry.
At that, Marilla left. When she came back later, she was frowning.
"Was Mrs. Barry still angry?"
Asked Anne.
Mrs. Barry?
Snapped Marilla.
I told her it was a mistake, but she didn't believe me. So I told her that if my girl was so greedy, drinking 3 glasses of anything, I'd be punishing her.
Marilla went into the kitchen. Anne stepped outside, and she walked determinedly to the Barrys' house and knocked on the door. When Mrs. Barry saw it was Anne, she frowned.
What do you want?
She demanded. Anne clasped her hands.
"Oh, Mrs. Barry, please forgive me. I did not mean to make Diana drunk. How could I? She is my best friend in the world. I thought it was raspberry cordial. Please say that you'll let me play with Diana. If I can't play with her, my life will be covered by a huge dark cloud of sadness."
Anne's dramatic plea had no effect on Mrs. Barry. She said coldly,
Anne, you should go home. You are not a good friend for Diana.
"Can't I see Diana and just say one last goodbye?"
Anne asked.
Diana is out with her father.
Said Mrs. Barry, shutting the door. Anne walked back to Green Gables with her head down.
"My last hope is gone."
She told Marilla, full of despair.
"I talked to Mrs. Barry, and she treated me very badly. I can do nothing now but pray. But I don't think that will help because even God can't change Mrs. Barry's mind."
Anne, don't talk like that.
Said Marilla, trying not to laugh at Anne's theatrics. But later, Marilla couldn't help feeling pity for Anne when she saw that the child had cried herself to sleep.
Poor little thing.
Marilla whispered, kissing Anne's red cheek. Anne had been doing her lessons at home. One morning, however, Anne came into the kitchen with her school books and announced,
Marilla, I'm going back to school. I miss spending time with my best friend Diana, so I must return.
Marilla hid her delight well,
I hope you'll behave yourself.
was all she said. In January, the Canadian Premier toured Canada, including Prince Edward Island. Most of Avonlea supported the Premier's politics, and many people, including Marilla and Mrs. Lynde, went to hear him speak in Charlottetown. They planned to return to Green Gables the next day, so Anne and Matthew had the cheerful, warm kitchen of Green Gables to themselves.
Matthew, did you ever study geometry?
Asked Anne.
Well, no, I didn't.
Matthew said.
I wish you had,
Anne said.
because then you could sympathize. I'm terrible at it.
Suddenly, the kitchen door flung open, and Diana Barry ran in.
What's the matter, Diana?
Cried Anne.
Has your mother changed her mind? Can we be friends again?
Oh, Anne, come quickly.
Diana urged her.
My little sister, Minnie May, is awfully sick. She's got croup. Father and Mother are in town at the Premier's meeting, and there's nobody to get the doctor. The babysitter doesn't know what to do, and I'm so scared.
Matthew reached for his cap and went outside to get the horse,
Matthew will ride to Carmody for the doctor.
said Anne. She quickly put on her coat.
Don't cry, Diana.
She went on cheerfully.
I know exactly what to do for croup. Mrs. Hammond had twins 3 times, which gave me lots of experience because they all had croup regularly. I'll get the Ipecac bottle in case you don't have any. Come on.
The 2 girls hurried to the Barrys' house through the fields, for the snow was too deep to go the shorter way. Although Anne was sincerely worried about Minnie May, she was delighted to be spending time with Diana again outside of school. She thought it was truly wonderful to walk through the dark, snowy night with her best friend. At the Barrys, Minnie May was feverish and restless, and her hoarse breathing rattled through the whole house. Anne promptly went to work.
Minnie May has croup, all right. She's pretty bad, but I've seen worse. First, we must have lots of hot water. Diana, fill up the kettle and put some wood in the stove. I'll undress Minnie May and give her some Ipecac.
The little girl did not take kindly to the Ipecac, but Anne kept trying. She gave Minnie the Ipecac many times during the long, anxious night, but Minnie got worse. Anne thought Minnie was sicker than the Hammond twins ever were. It was difficult for Minnie to breathe, and it seemed like she could choke to death. Anne, losing hope, gave her the last drop of Ipecac. In a few minutes, Minnie coughed up phlegm and began to get better right away. She soon fell asleep. It was 3 o'clock when Matthew finally arrived with the doctor.
I nearly gave up.
Anne said to the doctor.
You can't imagine my relief when she finally seemed better.
The doctor nodded and went to check on Minnie. Anne was exhausted from no sleep, and she went home with Matthew. In the morning, Mr. and Mrs. Barry came home. The doctor, Diana, and Minnie were in the living room. The doctor told Mr. and Mrs. Barry,
That red-headed girl is a clever thing. I tell you, she saved that baby's life. For someone her age, she was smart and calm. It was wonderful. I've never seen anything like it.
Anne didn't wake up until the evening of the next day. She went to the kitchen where Marilla sat knitting.
Anne,
Marilla said,
Matthew told me about last night. It's very fortunate you knew what to do. I wouldn't have any idea myself, for I never saw a case of croup. Mrs. Barry was here this afternoon, Anne.
Marilla continued.
She wanted to see you, but you were sleeping. She says you saved Minnie May's life, and she's sorry she acted the way she did in the affair with the wine. She hopes you'll forgive her and be good friends with Diana again. You can go over there this evening if you like. Now, Anne, don't fly into the air.
The warning was needed because Anne instantly sprang to her feet.
Oh, Marilla, can I go and see Diana right now without washing my dishes? I'll wash them when I come back. I can't do something so unromantic as dishwashing at this thrilling moment.
Yes, yes, run along,
Said Marilla indulgently, smiling. Anne ran through the orchard to the Barrys, not caring about the wind or cold. Mrs. Barry kissed her and cried, and said she was sorry and that she could never repay Anne. Anne was embarrassed but replied politely,
I forgive you, Mrs. Barry. I can tell you again that I did not mean to make Diana drunk.
Diana and Anne had a lovely afternoon. Diana showed Anne a new crochet stitch her aunt had taught her. Then Diana gave Anne a beautiful card with a wreath of roses on it and a verse of poetry. If you love me as I love you, nothing but death can part us two. At school, Diana and Anne sat together again, and they were the happiest girls in Avonlea.
Marilla, can I go over and see Diana just for a minute?
Asked Anne.
I don't want you going out after dark.
Said Marilla.
But she has something important to tell me.
Cried Anne.
How do you know?
Because she just signaled me from her window. We make flashes with the candle by waving cardboard in front. It was my idea, Marilla.
That doesn't surprise me, Anne.
Marilla replied. Anne dashed over to Diana's and dashed back.
Oh, Marilla, you know that tomorrow is Diana's birthday? Well, she asked me to stay at her house in the guest room. Her cousins are coming with a big sleigh, and we are all going to the debating club concert. If you'll let me go, that is. You will, won't you?
No, you can't go. Little girls should not go to concerts at night,
Marilla said. Anne, with tears rolling down her cheeks, went upstairs. Meanwhile, Matthew slept on the sofa. Matthew opened his eyes and said,
Marilla, I think Anne should go to the concert.
He had not been asleep.
Well, I don't.
Snorted Marilla.
Who's bringing up Anne, you or me?
You are.
Admitted Matthew. But he kept asking, and eventually Marilla let Anne go to the concert. On the day of the concert, Diana did Anne's hair in the new style, and Anne tied Diana's bows in a special way. Anne felt a little sad when she compared her plain black dress and shapeless coat with Diana's pretty green dress and smart jacket. But Anne remembered she had an imagination, and she could use it. Early in the evening, Diana's cousins arrived, and they crowded into the big sleigh. As they drove through the snow, there were tinkles of sleigh bells, and the night seemed magical to Anne. The concert was thrilling too. Only one item on the program failed to interest her: Gilbert Blythe reciting a poem. Anne picked up a book and read it until he finished, but Diana clapped and clapped for the performer. It was 11 o'clock when they got home, and the house was silent. Anne and Diana tiptoed into the guest room.
Are you ready for bed?
Anne asked.
Let's race to the bed.
The two girls ran and jumped on the bed in the spare room. And then something moved under them. There was a gasp and a cry, and somebody said in a muffled voice, "Ah! Oh my goodness!" Anne and Diana dashed out of the room and up the stairs. It was cold, and they were shivering.
Who was it? What was it?
Whispered Anne.
Oh, Anne, it was Aunt Josephine. She'll be furious,
Answered Diana.
Who's Aunt Josephine? She's my father's aunt, and she lives in Charlottetown. She's really old, 70, and I don't think she was ever young. She's very strict,
Diana said. Miss Josephine Barry did not appear at breakfast the next morning. Mrs. Barry smiled kindly at the two girls.
Did you have a good time last night? I meant to tell you that Aunt Josephine came and stayed in the guest room, but I was so tired I fell asleep.
Diana and Anne just smiled at each other. Anne went home after breakfast, and then later went to Mrs. Lynde's house on an errand.
So, you nearly frightened Miss Barry to death last night?
Said Mrs. Lynde.
Diana's mother is very upset. Josephine Barry came to stay for a month, but she changed her mind and is leaving tomorrow. And she had promised to pay for Diana's piano lessons, but now she isn't. She thinks Diana is a tomboy. Old Miss Barry is rich, and the Barrys want to keep on her good side. Anne, you should look before you leap, especially into beds.
Mrs. Lynde laughed at her own joke, but Anne saw nothing to laugh at. Anne went back and saw Diana.
Anne, after you left, Aunt Josephine woke up, and she was so angry. She won't stay, and I don't care, but Mother and Father do,
said Diana.
Diana, didn't you say it was my fault?
Asked Anne.
I'm no tattletale, Anne. It was my fault, too. Well, I'm going to tell Aunt Josephine myself,
Anne announced. Diana stared.
Anne Shirley! Why she'll eat you alive! I must, Diana. It was my fault, and I've got to confess. Luckily, I've had practice at confessions.
Aunt Josephine was knitting by the fire.
Who are you?
She demanded.
I'm Anne of Green Gables,
said the small visitor.
And I've come to confess.
Confess what?
Miss Barry asked.
It was my idea that Diana and I jump on your bed. Diana is a very ladylike girl, and it's not fair to blame her,
Anne said.
Diana jumped too,
said Miss Barry.
It was just for fun,
persisted Anne.
Diana really wants to learn the piano. If you must be angry with me. Mrs. Hammond and Mrs. Thomas were always angry at me. I am used to it, and I can endure it better than Diana.
The old lady was not angry anymore. In fact, she was interested in this strange red-headed girl.
2 girls bounced on me in the middle of the night, she said sternly. You don't know what it was like.
I don't know, but I can imagine,
Anne said eagerly.
It must have been very disturbing. Do you have any imagination, Miss Barry? If you do, imagine you are Diana and me. We didn't know there was anybody in the bed, and we nearly died. And we couldn't sleep in the guest room. You're probably used to staying in a guest room. But imagine you're a little orphan girl who's never stayed in a guest room.
Miss Barry actually laughed. Diana, listening outside, was relieved.
My imagination is a little rusty,
Miss Barry said.
But sit down and tell me about yourself.
I'm very sorry, but I can't,
said Anne.
I would like to because you seem like an interesting lady. You might even be a kindred spirit, though you don't look like one. I must go home to Miss Marilla Cuthbert. She is a very kind lady who is bringing me up. But before I go, please say you forgive Diana and me.
If you come and talk to me sometimes, I will forgive you both,
Miss Barry said. That evening, Miss Barry gave Diana a silver bracelet and decided not to return to Charlottetown.
I'm staying in Avonlea so I can get acquainted with Anne,
she said frankly.
She amuses me, and at my age, an amusing person is a rarity.
Miss Barry stayed for more than a month, and she and Anne became firm friends. Anne confided to Marilla.
Miss Barry was a kindred spirit after all.